Welcome to Doors to Hope and Healing, an inside look at foster care and adoption needs in Connecticut. My name is Jacqueline Ford. I have had the honor of working for the department for close to 30 years, and although I may be familiar with many of the topics I bring to you, I have invited experts in those fields to help dispel the myths and misconceptions that often act as barriers. Join us as we open our doors to an inside look at the Department of Children and Families. Stephanie, thank you so much for being on the set of Doors to Hope and Healing. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. We're going to be talking about a whole lot of different topics, but I think what's most important for you to know is that a youth who had experience with DCF is one of the best voices to advocate for other youth that are still involved with DCF. So you can help that child have change impacted for them in the ways that you think that DCF may be able to do better and be better. And today, we'd like to hear your voice about your experiences in the foster care program and in college and now as a young adult in the workforce. So it's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. So let's start with those early days of your journey. If you can bring us back to when you first understood who DCF was.
I have this memory of a DCF worker coming to my front door of my house. And even then, even though it seems like a traumatizing experience, for me, it was the first time I realized that that's what I want to do. I want to be in social work because I knew that it wasn't a great moment, but they were there to help me and get me to where I needed to be. So that was definitely an eye-opening moment, and that's the first moment I think of every time someone asks me, what do you want to do? Why do you want to be in social work, or what brought you here? So that definitely is a big part of my life.
Well, being a DCF social worker for almost 30 years, to hear that story, it gives me goosebumps. It gives me chills because we go into this work to make a change and an impact, and to know that your first experience with us was so positive. Have you ever reached out to that social worker who made that first visit to let her know or him know how you feel?
I haven't. I definitely wanted to, but I had social workers that I know of try to look through and find the information, and they couldn't find anything.
Okay.
But I know I remember it, so
yeah,
I'm not sure.
I'm sure. So I'm going to get on that. After the show, we'll have to talk, and I'll see if I can help make those connections, because I believe those connections are so powerful. So DCF comes into your life, and they're there to help support your family, and what happens next? What are your other memories of that experience?
I remember so I have 4 other sisters, and I remember 3 of us being together, and then the other 2 went to a separate place. We were there for a little while, not very long. We always went home, back home very quickly. So I have very small memories. I remember this one house that had a trampoline and a pool and a bunk bed that I shared with one of my sisters. But other than that, I don't have too much of a memory because I was very young, and it went by very quickly.
So you went into foster care so your mom can work on some issues that were maybe making the home life a little unsafe. And then when she was able to get the support she needed, you were able to go back home.
Yeah, so it was more of her being a single mom with 5 daughters, and my 3 older sisters being very reckless. And it was just a lot for my mom to handle at the time. But it was all quick, and we always went back home. So that was the nice part. I never had to worry about not seeing my mom again.
That's good. That's what our goal is. Our goal at the department is always to keep families together whenever we can, and if they do have to be disrupted in any way, that we bring them back together when we safely can do so. So you went back home and you lived with your mom and your 4 sisters, and something happened in your life that you went to live with an aunt?
Yeah, so when I was 9 years old, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And around about a little bit after a year, she passed away. And about a month before she passed away, me and my little sister were brought to our aunt's house to live there. My 3 older sisters stayed in the house because they were old enough to stay home by themselves. They were all in high school. Me and my little sister were brought to my aunt's house. We ended up becoming under her care after my mom passed away. And my oldest sister actually came with us too eventually. And then my 2 sisters are in the middle, they're twins, and they didn't want to split them up, so they both went into foster care and were adopted.
And do you have a relationship with your sisters?
Oh yeah, I talk to them every single day.
Oh, I'm so glad
we
to
have
hear
a
that.
group chat, we group FaceTime, I see them all the time. 2 of them live in Texas, 1 lives in Willimantic, and my little sister is in Mexico right now, but she lives in Spain for her school year.
Wow,
Yeah.
Very impressive. Well, I'm sure you're so grateful for family, and I'm so sorry that happened to you at such a young age. You know, having a mother in your life is so important, and I'm glad that you have your sisters and your aunt. So you lived with your aunt, and she raised you, and then in high school, you had a dream of pursuing college. And so tell me what that experience was like to do the applications and the financial forms that are needed to be considered for any type of loans or grants. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I always knew I wanted to go to college because I love learning. That's still one of my favorite things to do. So that was never a doubt in my mind. Even throughout high school, I always had really good grades. I enjoy learning. So when it came to college, I wish I would have been given more information than I was. Just because I was a black student in a very white school, so there was a lot of schools that I missed out on that I'm now going to. So when I started doing the application process, I didn't have help from the rest of my family. I kind of had to do it. I had to have my sisters help me with it because they had already done FAFSA and they knew how to do it. That was my only way of getting through it. I had to put down that I was an independent and try to get as much money as I possibly could. Just through my family relationships, I knew that I was going to be the only person supporting myself through college. So going through FAFSA was trying to get as much money as I possibly could for college. Luckily, I chose to stay within Connecticut. That way, if I needed to go home, I could. If I needed something, I could go back home. But also, I wasn't too close so that nobody could just pop up on me. At least I knew if someone was going to be coming to see me. But it also made it a lot cheaper for me. And I do have student loans, but could have been a lot worse for me.
Right. So your aunt, was it a transfer of guardianship or did she legally adopt you? So it was a transfer
of guardianship.
So had you been in a DCF situation, and I think you've learned as you've navigated this whole, financial, all the barriers that are in place, that DCF does support financially our youth who are interested in going to college.
Yes.
So you go to college and you do well. So which college did you attend?
I went to Central Connecticut State University.
And did you major in social work?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so your dream that happened years and years ago as that little child opening the door to DCF came true. So you're a social worker, and you, at what point did you say, I really want to be a vocal advocate for youth to navigate this whole college financial situation?
So somewhere between my sophomore and junior year, I was doing an internship with Sun when it was CARE, and I got to go to my state capitol and speak on a child welfare bill. And I was super nervous because they're like, okay, you have 3 minutes, you have to get all this information in, and that's it, get it done. So I was super nervous. I said what I had to say, and there was one point where I had tripped up, but I had gotten back and got onto my words, and they were like, at the end of it, they're like, oh yeah, we noticed that you tripped up, but you kept on it and you knew exactly what you were gonna say. You did a great job. And I was just like, whew, I feel a lot better.
So tell us what you said. What was it that, what message were you trying to relay?
So because of my situation and because of my sister's situation, I had noticed that my sisters obviously got their college paid for because they were adopted and I didn't. So I have these student loans and they don't. So for me, it was the point that any child that was in foster care that wants to go to college should get it paid for, even if it's the difference of being adopted and transfer of guardianship, because essentially they're in the same situation. It just comes down to legal things, and that's not fair to that child because it wasn't up to them whether they were adopted or they had a transfer of guardianship. And if they want to go to college, they should be able to go to college. And a lot of people don't go to college nowadays because it's so expensive. And I want everyone to be able to have that chance to go to college, because even to start with, a lot of foster kids don't go to college, and a lot of foster kids don't graduate college. It's about 3% that end up graduating college if you're in the foster care system. So if we were able to fund those kids that had a transfer guardianship, then we'd be more likely that a lot of kids would go to college and that statistic would go up. You know, we would realize, okay, they have the potential, they want to do it, we should be able to fund them to do it. And especially in Connecticut now, Family First, that we're pushing so much towards having these kids go back with their family, there's less money being put towards adopted kids that are going to college. So we should be able to transfer that money over to transfer guardianship kids.
I think you have a great point. And how was it received when you were?
I've presented that about 3 times, and they've agreed with me every time. It's just a matter of putting it into motion. I think it might be a little bit easier now with Family First, now that it's put together. I've definitely spoken about it multiple times, and it's probably a hill that I will die on. But
But I think that you said something so important is how many, to be vocal and to stay, it's not falter from what your messaging is, because as you get older and you become very set in your employment, and you're reaching all your dreams, to stay passionate about something that really mattered a lot at that time in your life, at that stage in your life, because it was both you and a sibling. So you had siblings that were in a very similar situation that you were, and all of you faced that same loss and that same trauma with your mom. So I think that you're a perfect example of all that you're promoting, and you're explaining to the change makers, the people who can actually make a difference. So tell me a little bit about your internship at Sun Scholar.
So I did a bunch of different stuff there. I wrote a policy memo about the same thing I just spoke about.
Yeah.
I supervised other interns to make a resource list. So anytime a student in Sun needed anything, a doctor, a dentist, a homeless shelter, food, or anything like that, they were able to look at that list, call those places. We vetted them to make sure that our students would be able to get to them, that they were available to us, and that it would actually be helpful for them. So we did it all across the state because we have so many students now, and that was helpful for a lot of the youth. I know that they still use it to this day, and it was made about 2 years ago.
Wow.
I also mentored a few students, but now I'll be able to do that more now that I'll be working there.
Yes, and we'll definitely get to that. Chris has been a great friend to the set. He's been on our show a few times, and I've gotten to know him, and he's doing remarkable work for young people. And that whole connection to college and to having those resources and supports is really the key to a student's success. And I do believe that your advocacy is going to change those numbers, that small percentage of our youth that go to college and are successful. As we have those resources tucked in there, we can help them be more successful. So what do you feel like was that defining moment for you? That defining moment where you said, I want to use my voice so that I can leave a legacy, and that other youth who are going to be in that same situation as me, maybe not in the same family where a sibling is adopted and then another sibling is a transfer of guardianship, but at what point did you say, this can't keep happening?
So when COVID happened, the entire school was kicked off of campus because somebody had went to the Student Wellness Center and said, hey, I think I've been in contact with somebody with COVID. So the school panicked and kicked everybody out that same day. So I was in a meeting with Chris actually to get Sun Scholars funded by DCF. I got out the meeting and my phone was blowing up. Everybody was calling me saying we're getting kicked off of campus. So I had to go back and rush to school to unpack my entire room, pack it up. But I didn't have anywhere to go. I couldn't go back to my grandmother's or my aunt's house. There wasn't room in the house for me, and there was not room for any of my stuff. And I don't have the best relationship with them, so it made it a little bit difficult, and that was not something that I was willing to try to reach out for. So the school had an option to contact them. They wrote up a letter, said, hey, if you need housing, let us know. Me and 5 other students that were in Care Scholars at the time put our information in and said, hey, we don't have anywhere to go. And all 6 of us got denied for housing. So we didn't have anywhere to go. And they only gave the housing to the athletes that were in other states. So Chris pulled up his car, and I put all my stuff in his car, and they found me a place, and me and one other student that I'm close with that I ended up living with for a while, packed up all of our stuff, put it in an apartment. It was like a house that was getting rebuilt, and they let us stay there until we needed to leave pretty much. And that was the turning point where I was like, okay, they don't care about us. We're irrelevant to them. I wrote a whole letter to the school and was like, hey, you know, all of these kids got denied for housing. We had nowhere to go, and you guys left us stranded with nothing. And that was kind of my turning point. Was like, this is not okay. Why are we letting this happen? And yeah.
Wow, I am so sorry that that happened to you. And was there a response as to why you were denied, or a response to an afterthought of, we really should have reconsidered that and gotten involved?
I had emailed Ojakian, and I got like a kind of like an automated email pretty much from somebody below him. And it was just like, oh, they didn't really say much, honestly. They didn't respond to anything that I said. It was kind of just like a automated response, like, sorry, and that was it.
Well, sometimes I think that, you know, a lot of those types of decisions that are coming from so high up, it's because they're not educated to really understand and really know what the impact, I mean, COVID rocked all of our worlds, but the impact that it could have on our foster kids or our transfer of guardianship kids who don't have a place to go, and that impact. So, you know, even if you didn't get a response, I'm hoping that that experience has, you know, changed the way that they're assessing things and they're doing things, so that that doesn't happen again. You know, and I commend you for your courage and for being, because it's not always easy to speak up and speak up about something that you're trying to convince others to understand. So you're so courageous, and I see you doing such wonderful things as you grow and develop. So tell us about, I know you're starting a new job next week at Sun Scholars, so I think that is, you know, a perfect job for you, because I have always been a firm believer that you can impact someone's trajectory of life so much easier when you know exactly what they're feeling, and you know, and you understand. So tell us about your new role.
So I will be doing work similar to what I'm doing now, but instead I'll be actually going out to the youth and meeting them where they're at, helping them with whatever they need school-wise, or if they, you know, trying to work on certain goals of theirs. That I like a lot more. I'm working with a lot of DCF youth now, but I feel like this way I'll be able to do my role the way I want to, you know, go above and beyond for these students, because they don't have anybody else to go above and beyond for them, and I want to be the person that I didn't have for myself when I was at that age, and give them, you know, whatever they need, and help them realize that they can do a lot more than they think they can do, and be the only person that's not going to discourage them from the things that they want to do in life.
Well, I think you're perfectly placed. And while you're working at this new job, you've started grad school yesterday, and you're at Howard University.
Yes, I am.
So tell us what degree you're pursuing at Howard University.
I will be getting a master's in social work. It's going to be based in policy, and it's rooted in the Black perspective.
So you're going to have a different voice and different audiences to talk about all of the things that you want to see change. As we close our segment today, Stephanie, can you tell us, you know, if you were to be, you know, on a platform, you know, you were on a stage and you had a room full of DCF staff, of DCF social workers, you know, frontline staff who are working with our adolescents, what message would you want to convey to this group of staff? Because we're your students. You are really the teacher, because you've experienced all this, all these lessons, you know, these experiences, these rich lessons. Some have been very difficult. What would you want to tell our staff to try to have all of us work together to create the change that you're looking for?
I think that it should be clear that, you know, these kids aren't coming into DCF because they want to. It's not a choice, and they don't want to be there, and we know they don't want to be there, but you got to make the best of it and put them in the best situation that they can, especially when it's in my situation, when it's, you know, foster care or adoption versus transfer guardianship. Again, that's not something that they chose. They didn't choose to, like, no, you know, there are some situations where people don't want to be adopted, but make that very clear that the differences between being adopted and transfer guardianship, because you lose out on so much when it comes to a transfer guardianship, just because, you know, this depends on your future. Your future depends on this. I was in a situation where I was determined to go to college, but there are people that will not want to go to college because they know they can't pay for it. I put myself in debt, but I knew that was going to happen, and I was okay with it happening. So just make it very clear, like, okay, I understand you don't want to be adopted, but this is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to go. and you might be better off being adopted. You know, it's just a piece of paper. It's just a legal document. That's what it is. But you're going to get so much more out of it. And even if they still choose to have that transfer guardianship, they should still have that option to say, I should still be able to get all these perks that all of these other students that are getting. There's not much of a difference here. I should still be able to get the same things, and we should be able to work together and get the kids where they need to be, because if we don't, we know how it's going to end up, and that's not fair to them. They didn't choose to be in this situation, so why are we letting some kids be better off than others?
Well, you had said something, and I quote, that you hope that one day you will see your name in a history book. And I hope that I see your name in a history book, but what I can be certain of is the legacy that you're going to leave behind at our department with your advocacy work. So I thank you, Stephanie. Don't stop. Stay resilient and relentless in your efforts to try to make a change.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for watching. Now we're going to show you a video of our teenagers who are asking us to meet them where they're at. Thank you.
I have a story that needs to be told.
Before I was placed in foster care,
I learned through actions and inactions of others.
that I was not worthy of love,
That I was not worthy of love.
that I was not worthy of love or attention.
I learned that my needs
are not a priority.
As a result of that negativity,
I experienced insecurity.
I want to be accepted by society, but I'm unsure if I have that ability.
teach me through your actions.
Teach me through your actions.
Teach me through your actions that I deserve to be cared about.
And treated well.
Don't make me feel as if I'm a burden. Remind me that I am here for a reason.
That I was brought into this life because I'm strong enough to live it.
I'm strong enough to live it.
I am strong enough to live it.
Show me that my presence is a gift.
Try
Try.
to meet me where I am at.
Give to me without expecting anything in return.
Because I may be too hurt and angry to express appreciation when you're trying to help me.
But trust that one day,
One day,
One day,
I will remember that you gave to me.
That you gave to me in this way.
can you meet me where I'm at?
Let me be sad sometimes.
give me room to mess up and make mistakes.
because mistakes are opportunities.
To learn and grow.
By forgiving me, you teach me how to forgive.
Understand, there will be times I need space from all the voices.
I think that they know what's best for me.
What's best for me.
What's best for me?
Remember that I am not a paycheck. I'm a person. Will you meet me where I'm at?
Remind me that my past
My past,
My past
Does not define me.
does not define me.
help me learn to be helped.
Mentor my thoughts.
Encourage my ideas.
challenge my pushbacks. Laugh with me.
Cry with me.
Have fun with me.
Have trust in me.
Ask me these questions.
What are my dreams?
What is my purpose?
What are my talents?
How can I help others? Help others.
How can I help others?
Let me know that you're here to help me reach my goals.
And I will become empowered.
But first,
But first, you have to meet me where I'm at.
I long for community and to be connected.
Help me with my self-esteem.
and help with my other esteem.
Which is how I feel about and relate to others.
Show me how to see that I am needed in my community.
And the world. And see how I can make a difference.
See how I can make a difference.
See how I can make a difference.
You have this gift.
Share it with me.
Share it with me.
Share it with me.
Remember that I have lived a different life before I met you.
A life you may never understand.
I am not asking you to solve all of my problems.
Just help make sure
Just help make sure
I don't have to face my problems alone.
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 I am asking you.
I'm asking you.
I'm asking you.
I am asking you So meet me where I'm at.
Meet me where I'm at.
Meet me where I'm at.
The Saybrook Fish House in Canton has been serving fresh seafood, chicken, and steak entrees for 34 years, offering 3 cozy dining room settings, a newly renovated pub with craft beer, wine by the glass, specialty cocktails, and a lighter fare menu. Open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. Reservations accepted for parties of 2 to 42, and gift certificates are also available. The Saybrook Fish House, nestled at the crossroads of Route 44, 202, and 179 in Canton.